Hey guys, we are back with some more New Jersey Devils franchise mode, and in this one, we have some pretty big decisions to make, as we're currently not in the greatest of spots. We're currently sitting in 6th, although we're only 2 points out of the playoffs, I believe, from the wild card, but still, that's not exactly where I would want to be. So, I've been playing around with the lines a little bit since the end of the last episode, and I came up with, well, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to be trading Kapanen. He just has not been good at all for really the entirety of the season. Only 5 points over 32 games. He's been really good defensively, but the way that we're playing now, we really need some offense, and we could always find a really good offensive player who's capable of putting up these types of defensive numbers, you know? So I figure we may as well trade Kapanen. And another thing that I had noticed. So First off, we're going to move Nico up back to the first line with Hughes and Perlini. And one thing that I noticed here, first of all, we only have 2 power forwards, and they're both on the 4th line in Virtanen and Zacha. So I think we need to go out and get a couple of power forwards. And the other reason for that is because when you put Pavel Zacha on the 3rd and 2nd line, he creates a +3 for both of these lines. So if my theory is correct, if we go out and get a couple of power forwards, obviously Kapanen's not going to be in there. We would move Lundell back down to the 4th line. So then it would be Zacha, Lundell, and Pitlick on the 4th line. And then you take Virtanen out. He can be an extra forward, trading Kapanen. So fill those 2 spots with a couple of really good power forward centers. You might be able to get a couple of +3 lines there on the 2nd line and the 3rd line. And that's going to be really critical, I think, going forward. So we are going to back out and make a couple of trades here. The first trade will be with the Edmonton Oilers. They are contender, but they do have a player on the trade block that I am very interested in, and that would be Gabriel Landeskog. He's an 87 overall, 36 years of age. He's making quite a bit of money, but he's only on a 1-year deal, so that is why I do not mind picking him up. He's got very little trade value. Well, not very little trade value, but his trade value is far less for an 87 than what it should be, and that's mostly because of his age, I would guess. And he has 29 points on the season, so I'm not sure why Edmonton would want to trade him, but they do want to trade him. So we are going to take advantage of that, and we are going to also hope that Edmonton retains 1.9 of Landeskog's salary, so that will take him to $7 million. And on our side, we are going to be adding the underachieving Kasperi Kapanen, as well as a prospect of ours in Quinton Richter, and because they're taking on that extra salary cap, we will throw in a 3rd rounder with those 2. So Kapanen, Richter, and a 3rd for Gabriel Landeskog. Proposed trade, that will go through. There you go. And the next trade will be with the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're also a very good team, 23-8-3, but they have one guy on the trade block who I am once again very interested in, and that would be their center, Logan Brown. He is currently 30 years of age, 85 overall, also a power forward, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he is. And he only has 1 year left on a very cheap deal. If we could get this guy to be a 3rd line center, and he has 25 points to go along with it, that would be a huge help to us. So we are going to try to acquire him. And I also want Tampa to retain 50% of his salary just to make sure that we have enough room to work with. And we are also going to include a 3rd round pick for next year, I believe, from St. Louis. And what will be going the other way is Marcus Grigorenko, number 1, because he hasn't played at all this year. I feel bad for offering him a contract. We should have just traded him to begin with because he hasn't played at all this year so far. And with these new acquisitions, he won't get the chance to play really for the rest of the year. So we may as well include him in this deal. But he's obviously not the main piece of this deal. The main piece of this deal would be a goaltender who we recently drafted in Solomon Girard. I wanted to make it fair. You know, I didn't want to include Hermy or Kavanagh just because they're in their low 50s, whereas we can include Girard, who's in his high 60s, and this trade would actually make a lot more sense. So Grigorenko and Girard for Logan Brown at half of his salary and a 3rd round pick. Obviously, the trade value is in their favor. What we'll do here, we'll try to add a 2nd, but I don't think this will work, to be honest. So Grigorenko and Girard for Brown, a 3rd, and a 2nd proposed trade. Yeah, they're rejecting this deal mainly because of the retained salary. If we didn't have the retained salary on there, then we could definitely fit the 2nd in. But right now, for me, the most important part out of this deal is retaining half of Logan Brown's salary. Even though he doesn't have that much to begin with, we're kind of on a cap crunch right now. So we are going to take the second off and just go for a third on Logan Brown at half his salary for Grigorenko and Girard. That will be accepted as well. So yes, indeed, my theory was correct. Landeskog, when you have him at center on the second line, creates a +3, as well as Logan Brown on the third line. Now, the thing about Landeskog is that he's actually pretty good at faceoffs, because if we take a look at his faceoff percentage for this year, he has a 59%, and last year he had a 52.32. Obviously, he doesn't take too many faceoffs, but when he does take them, he's pretty good at them. So I figured we would try him at center, see if we could get that +3 not only on the second line, but the third line. And also, he has the 3-bar 83 for faceoffs, so you gotta think that's at least at an 80 for his faceoff rating. So he really should not be that bad at all on the faceoff dot between Bratt and Hall. So if this team doesn't get it done, I don't know what team will. We're also going to mess with our power play lines a little bit. I want to get Landy up here instead of Racedis, and I'll put Carlson on the second unit because that second unit, for the most part, has been dead. So it'll be Perlini, Hughes, Kiiskinen, Landy, and Fabro, and then you have Bratt, Hischier, Hall, Racedis, and Carlson. Now, that looks really good, but it's a matter of actually performing now. So I think we'll take Kiiskinen off of the power play on the 4-man power play, and we'll get Landy there. Now, as for the penalty kill, I want to give Lundell some more time since he's moved down to the fourth line. So we'll just ignore the +1 and the 0 there. So we'll get Lundell up here with, we'll get Zaka up there with Lundell, and then it'll be Nico and Landy on the second pair. And one other thing that I want to do, Wingles has not been great this season so far, so I want to see how Parks does in the starting role for a little bit. We'll turn automated goalie rotations off, and we'll just see how this team goes. And honestly, this team should very well be a playoff team. If this team is not a playoff team, I don't know what team is. I mean, obviously, we've had playoff teams in the past, but if this team isn't capable of making the playoffs, then let's just say it's a good thing that it's year number 10. Okay, so we're going to take it game by game here because this is important. So game against LA, we have a 4-1 win. All right, good way to start out with the new roster. A 5-1 win against the Islanders. Seeing some pretty decent results so far. Just all I ask is that you stay consistent with it. Pittsburgh, a 5-4 win. Okay, Logan Brown, I want to speak about my ice time. Logan Brown, he's sorry for how he's playing. You're new to the team. So the first 4 games with this new lineup, 4-0, looking pretty good. 20-14-2. We may as well go another week or two here. So Philly, Boston, and Tampa. And unfortunately, Nico Hischier is out with a mild concussion till January 8th. I think that's like a week away, so it's not too big of a deal. But still, we're at the point where we need every win we can get. So that's an unfortunate injury for sure. And oddly enough, Jake Virtanen creates a +3 on the first line. So we have 3 lines of +3s there. So actually, you know what? If we move Landy up to the first line, that also creates a +3. But I'm going to leave the middle 6 intact because so far we have not lost in regulation with this new lineup with Landy and Logan Brown in there. And now all of a sudden we're in a divisional spot. So I think, at least for the time being, those were some pretty good moves. But we'll see how the rest of the season treats us. So we'll go one more week, and then I think we'll check on Mr. Tristan Parks. We'll see if he deserves some more starts. But as of right now, it's looking like he does. So we'll start him for 4 more games and see what his save percentage is looking like. You have Columbus. They're pretty good. We're about tied with them as far as the record goes. And what do we have here? We have Nico Hischier back, who's ready to play. Very nice. We will definitely have to get him back in there. Even though Virtanen does create that +3, it's not worth leaving Nico out for sure. So we're going to get him back in there with Hughes and Perlini, and we'll continue the sim. So we got a 5-2 win over Columbus, a 4-3 win over Montreal. There's our first regulation loss with these new lines, and we really just keep rolling here. As we are now 25-15-3, still in third in the Metropolitan Division. Obviously, I would like to be higher up in the standings, but for right now, I will definitely take it. So we'll see what Mr. Tristan Parks is all about. And so far, he has a .924 save percentage in 17 games played compared to Caleb Wingels, who had an .892 in 29 games. I do want to get Wingels some more games, but Parks has kind of been phenomenal so far. So I don't know how many more games Wingels is going to get. I guess because Parks has played a lot of games in a row. I think he's played like 11 games in a row at this point. So we'll give him a little bit of a rest. We'll get Wingels in there for a couple of games. But for the most part, at the moment, it's looking like the Tristan Parks show. So we will play these next 2 games with Caleb Wingels in there and see what he can do with this new lineup in front of him. He has a 7-0 win and a 4-2 loss. I'll play him one more game, see what he can do against the Islanders, and that'll be a 3-1 loss, unfortunately. Yeah, our division is pretty tight right now, as of last check, so we're going to get Parks back in there. We need every little bit of help that we can get. So Parks, hopefully you can win these next few games and get us back into a good spot. I mean, we're in a decent spot right now, but definitely not ideal, because once again, this division is very, very close together basically from second up until 6th. So I prefer to be able to gain some ground on some of these teams. You know, we get a good 5 or 6 game winning streak in there. We'll be able to jump the Penguins and the Blue Jackets and maybe even make up some ground on the Rangers. So this season is very much still up for grabs, but we have to ensure that we get these next few wins here. So Ottawa, St. Louis, and Detroit. And Anton Lundell has been injured with a sore knee until February 4th. Luckily, we only have 2 games between now and then because we have the All-Star break, I believe. So we will get Lundell out. We'll move Zaka into the middle. Got a good old input lag here, and we will get Virtanen back in. And unfortunately, Gabriel Landeskog has been injured with a mild concussion now until February 5th. You hate to see it. But luckily, we did get the win, 4-1 win over Detroit. So we are 29, 17, and 3 on the season so far. And I believe that makes us 13, 3, and 1 since those trades. Safe to say those were some pretty good trades. And not only that, it also got, it appears, Jack Hughes rolling. So that is always a good thing. As we check the standings, we are currently sitting in 3rd. We are above the Blue Jackets and the Flyers. We are slowly starting to pull away from the Islanders. We are making up ground on the Rangers. We are also close to catching the Penguins. Anything could still happen with this season, but we are definitely going in the right direction here, so we'll check out the team stats and the player stats, and presuming everything's good, which it should be, given our current record as of the past 16, 17 games, we'll continue the simulation. So goals for per game, we are currently sitting at a 3.2. That is much better than when we last checked at a 2.88. And goals against per game has gone way down as well to a 2.71. That is what you like to see. So we have gotten much better offensively and much better defensively. Now the power play, yes, okay. We look to be clicking. We look to be clicking now. 20.4 on the power play. That was previously at like a 13.1. So as of recent, that's probably around a 25 or 26%. You gotta think. For it to go up that much from a 13% after, what was it, 2 or 3 months of simulating with a very, very poor power play? Yeah, the power play is starting to take shape now. And on the penalty kill, we are at a 81.2. So pretty good there. As we last checked, it was at a 78%, somewhere around there. So again, as of recent, it's probably around an 83. I really have nothing to complain about right now as of the team stats, so we'll check out the player stats now. Hughes with 50 points, Bratt with 47, Landeskog with 44. How many of those came from our team? Landy has 15 points with us in 17 games so far. That has been a great trade as of right now, although he's currently injured, but as soon as he returns, should be a good presence for sure to get back into the lineup. Hall with 42 points, Perlini with 38, Nico with 37. He looks to be picking up the pace a little bit. Kiiskinen with 32 points. So Kiiskinen, much better pace as far as his goals go. Remember, before he was only on pace for 20 goals throughout the entire season. Now he has 20 goals, and we're only roughly, I would say, 60% of the way through the season. So definitely seeing some good progress as the season goes on. Now, Logan Brown, what has he done in his time here? He has 4 points in 17 games. That's a bit unfortunate, but what he does do is he creates that +3 on the third line. So maybe he's helping out Kiiskinen and Bykov, and he's definitely helping out Kiiskinen with the 20 goals so far. So Who knows? Maybe Kiiskinen does need a power forward there, because Logan Brown there effectively is the same thing as a Kevin Hayes being there. Because they're pretty much the same player. Lundell with 24 points, Karlsson with 22, Bykov with 21, Fabro with 21, Slavin with 14, Ritsidas with 13, Pitlick with 11, Zacha with 10, Hines with 9, Frolov with 7, Virtanen with 6, and that is it for skaters. And in goal, Wingels with an 895, and Parks has got to be the man. Parks with a 927 save percentage so far in the season. Wingels has 2 shutouts, but the 895 save percentage in 32 games compared to Parks, who has a 927 and 21. There's really no comparison right now. Parks has got to be the guy. Let's just check on some of the other stats over here. So you got Nico, who's 57% on faceoffs that he's taken. Hughes, who is 56.3. Zacha is a 54.1. Bykov is a 52.7. Lundell's a 52.7. Landy is a 52.5. Looking all good in the faceoffs department. Physicality, you got Hines, who almost has 100 hits. I mean, this really wasn't too big of a problem as of when we last checked. Karlsson, Ritsidas, Frolov, Lundell, and Virtanen and Bratt are the only guys who I would say are, well, not even underachieving physically, because Bratt isn't usually physical at all. So this is really technically an improvement for him. But other than that, we're getting some really good physicality, it looks like. And for blocks, I mean, these numbers are going to be, for the most part, all over the place. But as far as the takeaways, the giveaways go, we're looking pretty good there as well. Nico, Perlini, Hughes, Landy, Lundell, Pitlick, Bratt, Brown, Hall, all have good ratios. Kiiskinen is even, Bykov's almost even. Fabro, that's a pretty good ratio for him. It's almost at 2-1. That's what I look for in a defenseman. Zacha is 16-22, could be a bit better. But given that we've been winning, I'm not going to complain about that too much. Then you got Ritsidas with a 14-39. Slavin, 13-27. That's good for him. Hines, 12-43. 8-13 for Virtanen. 6-20 for Karlsson. 4-14 for Frolov. Frolov's been a lot better this year than he was last year for sure. He's getting less ice time this year, but his giveaways have been a lot more under control. So I think if he does grow, it's going to be very minimal, but he's at least showing progression, which is what I was looking for out of Frolov this year, because he's only 21 and he still definitely has room to grow. Again, that being said, I'm not sure how much he's going to grow, but he could grow a little bit over the course of the offseason, so he is someone who I want to hold on to. And the injuries keep piling up. Dante Fabro now with the concussion till February 28th. That is till the end of the month. We're currently at the beginning of February. We're going a whole month without Fabro. That is not good. So now instead we have Slavin taking his place on the top pair with Ritsidas, and then you have McCowan with Frolov down there on the bottom pair. And now Landeskog is fully healed, so we lose Fabro, but we get Landy back. So we'll get Zacha back down there on the fourth line, and we will take Virtanen out and get Landy, of course, back in on the second line center. We have a trade to the Islanders, a first in Wolniski, and to Vancouver, Foudy, a fourth and a sixth. To Chicago, Rome, a fifth, and Subban, and to LA, you have Benson and Vakanainen. And we have a trade to Nashville, Velarde and Gleason, and to Washington, Robert Thomas and Logan Stanley. Another trade we have to the Rangers, Bruce, a third and a fourth, and to Ottawa, Brindamore and Kuznetsov. Man, the computers are making trades like crazy right now. To St. Louis, Lindgren and a third, and to Washington, Pinot and James. And Logan Brown has been injured with an abdominal strain until March 13th. I don't think I've gone like 2 days in the simulation right now without one of these notifications popping up. That's unfortunate. That takes us till after the trade deadline without Logan Brown. So we're going to have to put Zacha there on the third line for the time being. And on the fourth line, we will get Virtanen in there. Another trade to Edmonton, we have Yoel Levy, and to San Jose, a first and Shepherd. And now Daryl Rupp has been injured with a sprained ankle. That's unfortunate. One of our better prospects down there in Binghamton. We're going to have to replace him. And now Dante Fabro is back. I mean, that's a good thing for sure, but we're getting so many of these notifications right now. It's actually insane. Fabro, get back in there, and Slavin back down to the third pair. And just going to make sure that Fabro is where he needs to be. Slavin, you'll get off the power play and put Fabro in there. Okay, can we go like a week without an injury here, game? Please? So let's see. Tampa, we have a 4-3 loss and then a 4-3 shootout loss. So now with this new lineup, we are 26-3, and we are currently sitting first in the Metropolitan Division with a record of 36-20-5. We are in a very good spot as of right now. I mean, we still are only 4 points ahead of the wild card, but we're putting ourselves in a very good position to make the playoffs. So I have no need to think that we need to make any trades. Obviously, we've had quite a few injuries, but nothing that's really going to affect our playoff run, I wouldn't imagine. I'm just going to make sure that, as a matter of fact, that the injury sliders aren't set to 50, because we've been getting quite a bit of them recently, but they're not out of control. So we'll leave them at 12, and I think we will go the rest of the season here, as there's not really much that we need to improve. And besides, we don't really have much cap space left anyway, so I couldn't really do that if I wanted to without giving up a roster player. So I think, we're just going to advance to the end of the regular season. I'm confident in this roster, although what we will do for at least a few games, since we are in the position that we're in, we will give a few starts to Caleb Wingels. It's unfortunate to see how he's regressed like this. I mean, he had a rough start in his first full year with that 889 save percentage in 50 games, but he had a pretty good season last year with a 906. And then the playoffs, he had a pretty decent run as well with a 905. But now all of a sudden he's back to basically where he was coming into the NHL. So I don't know what to think of Caleb Wingels. But nonetheless, he's a good goaltender to have for sure going into the playoffs, along with Tristan Parks. Because Tristan Parks has been phenomenal for us so far with that 927 save percentage in 33 games. Another trade to Dallas, White in a fourth, and to Toronto, Bjork a third and a fourth. And now Logan Brown is finally back, so we'll move Zaka back down to the fourth line and Virtanen out of the lineup in favor of Logan Brown. So Wingels, as of recently, has actually played pretty well. Even though he still has a 898 save percentage, he's won, I believe, 7 out of the last 8 games for us. So I think we have a pretty decent 1-2 punch going into the playoffs. Obviously, it's still going to be Parks, I think, that we're going to roll with. But it's good to know that Wingels isn't just going to roll over and say, I'm done, you know? He's showing some fight here. And unfortunately, Gabriel Landeskog injured with a bruised arm till March 27th. At least he will be back before the playoffs. Now, Anton Lundell is injured with an injured hip until March 23rd. So, again, the injuries that we're getting, they're not too bad, but we're definitely getting quite a bit of them. So 77 games in, we have officially clinched the playoffs. We are at 101 points with a record of 48, 24, and 5. I believe since our trades that we made for Landy and Logan Brown, we are 32, 10, and 3. Much, much better, for sure, with the power forwards in there. And now for this final stretch, we will get Mr. Tristan Parks in there, as I do want to see what he is capable of in the playoffs. We already saw what Caleb Wingels was capable of, and he's actually gotten himself back up to over a 900. So he had a good run there, but I want to see what Parks can do during crunch time. Man, you gotta be kidding me with these injuries. Dante Fabro injured with a concussion until May 1st. He's out for at least the first round completely. These injuries, I might have to turn them down, because it's starting to get a bit much. This is not fun. Slavin get up there to the first pair, and we will get McCowan in there, who's now at 77. That's unfortunate. So we finish off the season 52, 25, and 5, 109 points. First in our division, not first in the conference, though, unfortunately, so we do not take home the President's Trophy, but that is all right. We're looking for the Stanley Cup. So we will wrap up this season here, and we'll see who we have in the playoffs. So for the team stats, let's see where those sit going into the playoffs. We are at a 3.29 for goals for per game and a 2.55 goals against per game. That is what you like to see. Power play, we are sitting at a 20.1. Not the best it could be, but it is far better than what we saw before. As for the penalty kill, a 79.2. It's been roughly around there for the majority of the season, so I can't complain too much about that. It's definitely gotten a bit worse since we last checked, but I wouldn't say it's to the point of causing us to lose too many games. And leading our team this year in points was Jack Hughes with 80 points, so not nearly as much as he had last year with that 102-point season, career year for him then. but it looks like he's at the very least back to his normal rate of production, where he had 79, 82, 73, somewhere around there. That's about where we expect Hughes. Not like 59 points, not 102. He's back to his regular production, which I guess is a good thing. And for Bratt, 77 points. That should be a career high. He's up to an 89 overall now. Yes, indeed. That is definitely a career high. Taylor Hall with 73 points, still getting it done at 37 years of age. Landeskog with 66 points. How many of those were with us? That would be 37. 37 points in 44 games. Very good addition for us, for sure. Perlini with 58, as well as Nico with 58. Kiiskinen with 56. He had another 34 goals season. This time he was on the power play, but still, nonetheless, another season much like the one he had last year. And all it took was to get a power forward on his line. Garrett Carlson with 41 points, so he definitely picked it up towards the end of the year. Obviously, during the first 32 games, I think he only had 13 points, so he's been much better during the second half of the season. Bykov with 40 points, he picked it up. He was on pace for around 30 points, I believe, at most, when we last checked, so that's good to see out of him. Another 40-point season for Bykov. Lundell, that's usually where he is, around 35 to 40 points, somewhere in that range, so that's nothing out of the ordinary for him. Logan Brown with 36 points. How many of those came from our team? That would be 11 points in 41 games. Didn't fit in as well offensively as we would have liked him to, but he did create that +3. He did allow Kiiskinen to start scoring some more goals. Maybe Kiiskinen just needed to have some space opened up for him, and he all of a sudden started sniping them in the goal. So I really can't complain too much about Logan Brown. Dante Fabro with 34 points. Slavin with 29. Zaka with 23, Pitlick with 22, Vatsidis with 21, Hines with 16, Frolov with 10, and Virtanen with 9, McCowan with 1. Clark played 4 games. And in goal, you have Caleb Wingels with a .903 save percentage in 49 games, and you have, in 39 games for Parks, a .925 save percentage. So I think it's pretty clear who we are going to start the playoffs with this year. That would be Mr. Tristan Parks. Want to see what he can do under pressure? Obviously, we will go to Wingels if we need to, and I don't mind doing that, but I want to see if Parks really is a true elite goaltender of the future. And we have the New York Rangers. So their lineups, I would imagine, aren't much different from last year when we saw them in the second round. This time we are facing them in the first round of the playoffs. So let's see what their lines are. They have Wahlstrom, Lundestrom, and Kakko this time is on the first line. Second line, Holtz, Hedel, and Ackerstrom. So basically the same top 6, just a different arrangement. Then you have on the third line, Orzak, Konechny now, and Dice. And on the fourth line, Rubtsov, Zibanejad has dropped down to an 82, and Justin Bailey. And on defense, you have Shea and Foote, Carlson and Wood, and then Mark Roloff and Dylan Coughlin. So defense contains of Shea and then Foote, and then a bunch of 70s, and then a forward in Mark Roloff. Remember, Mark Roloff was supposed to be one of the better forwards that came out of his draft. He went 7th overall, but he actually had a medium elite, and he started as an 82 overall. He hasn't grown too much since then, it looks like. So I wonder, they probably have some injuries here. And in goal, of course, they have Nielsen and Georgiev, so no matter who we're facing, it is going to be a good goaltender. Yeah, they have a couple of injuries. Well, actually, only one injury on defense. That'd be Keandre Miller. And it doesn't look like he's even injured. He's just scratched for whatever reason. Maybe they'll put him back in for the series that we have against them coming up. Maybe he just got back from injury. But they also have Tage Thompson and Nick Merkley. So, yeah, this should be a pretty interesting series, especially with their defensive core. We'll see how they stand. But their forward core looking as tough as ever. So, that all being said, I'll end this one off here. And the next one, we have Arizona versus LA. Anaheim versus Calgary, Colorado versus Dallas, St. Louis versus San Jose, and over in the East, you have Toronto versus Buffalo, Tampa versus Montreal, Columbus versus Pittsburgh, and your New Jersey Devils versus the New York Rangers. I'll leave you guys out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.